Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we'll be doing a live stream today. We got a couple things to talk about. One of those things is going to be the severe weather chances across parts of the Great Lakes, Midwest, and even for parts of the Ohio Valley over the next couple of days. And we do have a Tropics update. It's also a big one too. There's some good news and bad news with the Tropics here. We'll probably wait for a couple people to enter here before we get started. My chair just sucks. Squeaks all the time. Should probably go ahead and let people on Twitter know too that I am streaming. Let me go and do that really quick. Be very quick. Okay, so we got that. Having an update on the severe weather in tropics. Let me put that up. Talking about severe weather in tropics. Alright. At least people on Twitter will know. For my Twitter followers. Turn on. Hello, Interpreter Explorer. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream, Captain America. Alright, since we got a couple people in here, let's go and get started. So we're going to start off with the severe weather, since this will be happening over the next couple of days. Being all the tropics, the effects will be later this week. So this is the Spc Outlook here for today. We do have a couple of slight risks. We got one across eastern North Dakota, northwestern Minnesota, and even for northeastern South Dakota. Then we got another slight risk area for northeastern Illinois and northwestern Indiana, with a couple of marginal risks surrounding that as well. The main focus for today is going to be in northeastern Illinois. That's the area we got to watch for the potential for supercells that can also produce large hail, damaging winds, even for the chance for a couple tornadoes as well, which we'll check out the current environment here on the SPC hourly mesoscale analysis. Damaging winds will be there, and even hail could be very large in parts of North Dakota as well. So let's go ahead and start talking about today first. So this is your surface-based cape, and you can see here, there's a lot of instability out there, especially across parts of Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Iowa, Nebraska, even down across parts of Arkansas and Tennessee. But really, the main area of focus today is going to be in this area right in here, and we do have a nose of much higher instability numbers moving into northeastern Iowa, amid Illinois, with places that's ranging from anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram. Even in the mid-levels, instability values are increasing. So we'll take a look to the mixed layer cape, and you can see there you do have that 3,000 threshold starting to move to the northeast. We also do have some convection developing in northern Illinois as well. And those will be continuing to move to the southeast, and they'll be getting more organized as they get closer to Chicago. We'll check out the superset composite here. So this is a combination of cape and wind shear, and it's as high as a 12 across parts of western Illinois, and even across parts of southern Illinois as well. Even a number as high as 8 uh, is a decent chance for supercells as well. But again, the main area of focus will be across northeastern Illinois and even into parts of northwestern Indiana as well. And these instability values and these wind shear numbers will increase over the next couple of hours Here's your bulk shear. Some of your greatest wind shear is right now in the parts of Indiana and east central Illinois. Right now, you'll start to see wind shear values increase in northeastern Illinois, especially around the Chicago area. If you look into helicity numbers, it's not that high currently, but we'll probably see an area pop up with 200 up there as well. So pretty decent environment here we're going to see here later today across parts of northeastern Illinois. So we'll check out the reflectivity on the HER model, and you can see here it does show a pretty decent cluster of thunderstorms moving to the south. We've also been trending a little bit more of cluster variety storms. HER model a couple runs ago did show more of supercells than anything else. And now it's showing more of a cluster of thunderstorms. If it's just a cluster of thunderstorms, that's better news. That does decrease the tornado threat, but the tornado threat will still stick around though. Squall line of storms can produce tornadoes as well. But with supercell variety storms, given a lower end chance from the HER model, that's at least some better news out there. And my phone just got disconnected from the stream. Happens every time. Don't understand why, but it does. There we go. So let's actually move to pitiful weather here. So Explorer says, will Columbus, Ohio get any severe storms over the next several days? There is a low end chance over the next couple of days. I'll show you guys the Spc Outlook here for the next couple of days in just a moment. Let's get the HER model up here. It is currently updating on its 18Z, which is good. So we can see a little bit further out than just 18 hours. We also be able to have a sneak peek to tomorrow. And tomorrow, it's a pretty complicated setup. Let me tell you guys that, not much. Tomorrow is going to be a pretty complicated setup. So let's see what it shows in its 18Z run here. Alright, so this is what it's got here. So you can see our cluster thunderstorms do try to develop here, at least a line of thunderstorms try to develop. And keep in mind, even a line of thunderstorms again could produce tornadoes as well. With those inflow and outflow boundaries kind of hitting each other, it does create a little extra spin within some of these storms. And you can see it continues to move through parts of Chicago area, even across a little farther to the southwest as well, into northern central Illinois. Eventually, these storms should start to die out into the overnight hours. And as we kind of move on to the next day, this is where things do get complicated. We may get to see multiple cluster thunderstorms tomorrow, at least one or two. We're not exactly sure where those going to be happening, but we're going to see when the HER model gets done later in the stream here. It's currently at 22Z right now. But let's check out some other things. Let's check out. I haven't checked out on significant tornado parameters in a while. And these are typically overdone in my opinion. So we're going to the blue shade here. Basically indicates that you do have a low wind tornado threat, but higher the number, higher the chance for a tornado. And you can see here it's really from a 1 to a 1.5, which isn't really a big threat for tornadoes, but it's still a low wind threat. It's a non-zero threat, and the SPC has a 5% chance out there as well. So let's get one sounding out there and see what it's got for us. And it does show a pretty good setup here. So you got pretty good upper level wind support there. You do have wind direction with height between 1,700 millibars. You got a pretty good hodograph as well, a little bit medium sized. Surface, your helicity numbers are really ranging anywhere from 133 to 302, which is favorable for severe weather. 18 to 39 knots is also favorable. Low level lap rates is also pretty good, 7.7. That'd be favorable for some damage winds and also stronger low level updrafts. Downdraft cape is also there with 9 or 18. And plus, you got a decent amount of instability, 3100, which HER model is typically underdone with the instability values. It's definitely an outlier from the HER model. But either way, it still shows a pretty good environment here. I gotta say, pretty decent environment here shown by the HER model. You can see here, it actually shows those numbers increases to the overnight hours as the wind shear and that low of a jet really starts to kick in. We'll get another one out there. So it's got the next couple hours. And it does show a little bit of a better setup. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on up here. Uh, just ignore that for now. Not sure what's going on up there. Um, Again, decent photograph. Wind shear is pretty much about the same way, although it's a little bit higher. Downdraft cape's also a little bit higher, so that increases your damage and wind threat. Also, still have a good amount of instability. Low overlap rates is a little bit on the weaker side, but that's just to be expected in the overnight hours. That's very typical for low overlap rates to decrease in the overnight hours. That's still, again, that's favorable for all hazards. Plus, you still got a pretty good Elven mix layer here, which is dry air in the mid levels. That does help those storms and also increases your hail threat as well. You can see here that threat does diminish into the early morning hours. And then we have to watch and see what's going to happen later on. And what is this? What in the world? Okay, well, we'll check back on the HER model later on. Alright, let's check out a couple other things. We'll check out the highest NAM, and then again, it's not been performing so hot, especially for today, but it's done a little bit better than some of the other models out there. I'll say that much. You can see here, and it does have this bias here where it does cluster up everything. It does have that bias, and it's also showing it to be further south, which I think that's going to be too far south. So I'll take the high-res NAM solution as a grain of salt. You can see that it moves to the southwest there. We'll check out the environment here as well. Let's actually use significant Twitter parameters. Actually, no. Supercell composite, because significant Twitter parameters does not show up too well on this website. You can see there are supercell composite numbers right anywhere from a 4 to a 7. That's a decent probability for supercells. Well, pretty much that means that there is a pretty good environment here for supercells across parts of northern Illinois out there. And we'll check out the NAM very quickly. And does show pretty much the similar way what the NAM shows, or the high-res. Wow, same way as the HER model. That's what I meant to say. Similar way of what the HER model shows, and you can see there, a lot of thunderstorms does develop up there. I believe that's also a mesoconvective vortex as well, spinning just across to the north there. Yeah, that's a mesoconvective vortex, and that's what's going to be spawning some of the severe weather. It's that MCV. That's why it's also that Tornado threat's a little bit higher. Typically with MCVs, it does bring in a little bit better wind shear, and it does bring in a better environment for severe weather, and it does increase those chances as well. And I'm not going to bother to look into the rapid refresh. We'll try to get through this very quickly because I'm sure some of you guys are interested with some of the other stuff as well. So okay, we just got through today. Let's move into tomorrow. Yeah, that's a big area from the SPC. This is very surprising in my opinion. I mean, I haven't seen a risk that large in a while. I mean, just look how big this is. So basically, you got a enhanced risk across parts of southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and even for northeastern Iowa for tomorrow. Oh yeah, again, this is for tomorrow. That's where the environment is at least better, has better conditions for damage and winds, and some of those could be significant as well. But keep in mind, there could be multiple clusters out there, but we do not exactly know where those clusters are going to be. Models have been showing different solutions. It's not been very consistent, so it's a very complicated setup, like I said earlier in the live stream. We have some models suggesting cluster up here, a couple clusters there, and there, and there. It's just all over the place. So we're not completely sure where these clusters are going to be at. But either way, there's still a good environment here for severe weather for really anybody in the slack risk region, pretty much. There's a pretty good environment for severe weather. Even areas in the margin risk still has a low end risk for severe weather, which does include a good part of the Ohio Valley and Northeast. It expands down to the Tennessee Valley. As far west as the Oklahoma and Texas Panhandle. It's also as far north as northeastern Minnesota. That's a very large risk area. And you got your slight risk for parts of central and eastern Kansas, the northern half of Missouri, most of Illinois, all of Indiana, most of Michigan, southeastern Iowa, northwestern Ohio, northern Wisconsin as well. So a very large area that the SPC is highlighted here. But really the better threat for tornadoes is still pretty low in threat, but it's going to be more focused across parts of southern Wisconsin and some of the adjacent areas as well. And the biggest threat is going to be damage winds. This is going to be your main threat. And that hatched area does indicate for the possibility for some significant winds. So that's winds greater than 75 miles per hour. And you also got that 30% area in there as well. This may expand over time. It may shift around. I think it's just really got to depend on where these storms are going to form, which that's something we don't really know of right now since the models are all over the place. So we'll probably have the best idea on this setup here tomorrow as we get to the event. So just to keep in mind of that, but I'll show you guys the models here. They do show different solutions. And there's also a hail threat as well, but it's mainly focused across parts of Wisconsin, northeastern Iowa, northern Illinois, and far southeastern Minnesota. So let's check out a couple of these models here. Let's pull up the 18Z Hurt on here. If it's going to help me here. There we go, 18Z. So let's see what it shows tomorrow. This is a fresh run out of the Hurt. And honestly, in my opinion, this is probably done the best today out of the rest of the models. So I'm interested to see what's going to show tomorrow. And again, with those cluster thunderstorms, the Hermos got clustered down across parts of Kentucky and Indiana. It's got one across parts of Missouri, and it shows one developing up in Wisconsin, where that's where we have the greatest confidence right now. But bam, big cluster thunderstorms form up across those areas, and it shows another big cluster popping up across parts of Missouri and Illinois there. So multiple clusters are possible out there later today, and as you go to the overnight hours, it may become a flash flood threat across some of these areas in here as well. So this is definitely something we need to pay attention to. I'm also noticing here is that the Hermon is also highlighting a mescoconvective vortex here. If that's going to be the case here, that could lead to a pretty decent severe weather threat across parts of the Laurel Ohio Valley here. So that's southern Illinois, southeastern Missouri, southern Indiana, to parts of Kentucky. So that would be an area we need to monitor as well. If the Hermon is going to be correct with that MCV, which we're not going to be completely sure of how long that's going to last. But if it does continue, there could be a pretty decent severe weather threat down there. So it's definitely something we need to watch for. And again, later on the run, you get big storms that form across the north here and some of these other places as well. I'm also showing something for sure tomorrow. Yeah, you're definitely right. Alright, let's check out this. I'll probably have to refresh this because sometimes it stops. Yeah, there we go. Let's check out the environment here from the her model and see what's got here. And then again, the her model has a tendency of underdoing the cape. You see there, that's like right now, and this way it actually thinks. You can see there it's a little bit lower, but I've seen worse on this model, in my opinion. It's not the greatest with the cape. But you can see our layer model here. I mean, check out all this cape that's out here. So really in the purple colors, that's 4,000 plus. That's a lot of cape. Really, all you need for severe weather is over 1,000. That's all you need. And we got 4 to 5 times that amount of cape. So let's get a couple soundings out there. Probably going to be a while to kind of look over some of this stuff here. So this is in southern Wisconsin. It shows a pretty favorable setup here. Now, the upper level dynamics is not that great, but there's other things that indicate a pretty good setup. Like, look at your lap rates. I mean, in all levels, that's over 8. And you only need like a 7 degrees Celsius per kilometer. That's really all you need. And 8 is a decently high number, especially for mid-level cape, or I meant to say mid-level lap rates. That's pretty favorable for not only for damaged winds or severe weather, actually for hail as well. Downdraft cape is 1300. Again, a lot of instability, 4900. Now, the tornado effort will stay pretty low given the fact there is not going to be a whole lot of wind shear out there. It's also going to be pretty hot and humid. Temperature 93 degrees and the dew point is 73 degrees. Yeah, it'll be very muggy. It's going to be hot and humid. Let's check out some other areas. Let's see what it shows out ahead of that Mexico convective vortex. There may be weakening at that point. Wow, it actually shows a pretty strong low level lap rates, a 9. Dang, it's pretty impressive there. This shows a pretty favorable setup here for severe weather as well, mainly for damaged winds though. You got the downdraft cape, you got the low level lap rates. You pretty much got most of it there, except for those upper level winds, but really, it's not going to take a whole lot of these storms to get going to produce some severe wind gusts down that far south. So we may need to watch for those areas as well. We'll get one more area. Let's do Central Illinois. We'll do one more area. Again, it shows a pretty decent setup here. 5800 Cape, that's very high. That's kind of getting close to the extreme levels of instability. Not a whole lot of wind shear. And that's going to keep your tornado threat pretty low. So really the primary threats you need to watch for is damaged winds and some hail. That's really the threats you need to watch for. Downdraft K1500, that's pretty high. Lap rates is also pretty good. So again, another good sounding for severe weather for damaged winds and hail as well. Let's check out some other models. Let's check out the high-res NAM here. We'll go back to the reflectivity. And I believe this is going to show a different story, but this is a little bit of an older run. It may show something different on the next run. But check this out. It shows something a little bit different than what the HER model shows. So again, you got a big cluster that forms in northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and eastern Iowa. Then look at this. Another cluster of thunderstorms over into parts of Ohio. Now, at least models do agree with a cluster across parts of northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, eastern Iowa, but everywhere else we don't really exactly know. I think it's really going to depend on where those leftover alpha boundaries are going to be. And you can see as you get into the overnight hours, it's a big mess out there. Lots of thunderstorm activity. Now, at this point here, these will be sub-severe, but this also increases your flash flood threat as well. These storms will be dumping a lot of rain, where we do have a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, plus with those high dew point values as well. And then we're going to see how things go for Wednesday as well, which confidence on that day is going to be low. Now, the high-res NAM does the best job with the environment, so I do trust this a little bit more with the environment. You can see here later today, it's actually done pretty well with the Cape out west here. Remember, on the SPC Mexico analysis here, we do have a large area of 6,000 to 6,500 joules per kilogram of Cape. Well, it shows something pretty similar to that, but it does show quite a bit of Cape down far south, but that's okay. But there's still a lot of instability. But let's move on to the next day here. And you can see here from the high-res NAM, you got a large area of 4,000 plus joules per kilogram of Cape. That's a lot. And then you go over to Iowa, and there's a sliver of 5,800 some places. So let's check out some of these places in here. We'll go to southern Indiana first. See if this is going to load for me. There we go. So this is in, believe it's southern Indiana. And you can see here, not a bad sounding. But then again, you got a lot of instability to work with. 6,000 joules per kilogram. It's also a pretty favorable environment here for damage winds, which I think this is going to be the primary threat over the next couple of days. It's really just the damage winds. I mean, downdraft cape is there. Really, all you need for downdraft cape is 800. We got 1,300, which is a decent amount. Low level lap rates is there. Mid level lap rates is not terrible. I mean, 6.8, 6.6. It's not terrible. It's not bad. I mean, terrible would be like under a 6 or under 6.5. And we got numbers between 6.5 and 7. It's not that bad. Could show maybe a small hail risk, but that's just a low chance there. Let's check out Southern Iowa here. We'll check out Northern Illinois where we do have the best confidence to see if it shows something similar to what the HER model shows. If you guys do have any questions, you could go and put it in the chat. Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, your lap rates is definitely there. That's pretty favorable for severe weather. Downdraft Cape 1800, Cape 8500. Wow, that's insane. Dew points 83 with a temperature of 92 degrees. I mean, that's pretty insane there. I mean, that's an extreme amount of instability, but that could be a little bit of an overkill though. I'll say that at least. But this is a pretty good sounding here. I mean, this is a favorable sounding here for some intense thunderstorms here. Mainly for damage winds and even for some hail too. Given the fact we do have the strong mid-level lap rates, large hail will definitely be a possibility if a thunderstorm does form in that type of environment. Let's back this up a little bit. Actually, let's go to Northern Illinois as our last sounding from the high-risk NAM. Then we'll check out the NAM and then the rapid refresh. And then we'll check out day 3 from the SPC. Talk a little bit about that. And then we'll talk about the tropics. Alright, so in Northern Illinois, not a bad sounding either. Low lap rates is there, downdraft cape is also there, quite a bit of instability. Now, your mid-level flow, it's not really there, it's a little bit on the weaker side, but that's okay. A little bit of wind shear, not a whole lot or anything. But keep in mind that SPC does have a very low wind tornado risk up there, so that's storm rate to felicity numbers. It's a little bit elevated, but it's not too elevated for a large tornado risk or anything. It's a very low end risk. So this is not a bad sounding either. Let's check out the NAM. And you can see here later today, again shows that MCV going up across parts of Wisconsin. But let's go and skip to the next day. Yeah, it shows something a little bit different again. It shows a big cluster of thunderstorms moving across parts of Wisconsin and Michigan. Again, this is pretty sure this is the only model that shows that, so the chances of that's pretty low. But this has not been doing so well either so far today. But then as you go on later today, you do get some of these big cluster thunderstorms, these mesoconvective systems. You got one there stretching from parts of southeastern Iowa up to Lake Michigan, and then you got another cluster going on across parts of Indiana and Ohio. So again, something different than what the other models have been showing. This is what's making forecasting very difficult. You see there's later today, just about spot on with the Cape there. So I do have a decent amount of trust with the Cape here on the NAM as well. And man, does it show a widespread area 5,000 plus. That's crazy. You got a hot spot across parts of southern Wisconsin, or central Wisconsin, I should say. But we'll get sounding up there where we do got the best confidence for severe weather. Alright, this is what it shows, and pretty impressive environment again. We'll be on the weaker side with the mixler, but that's okay. With the Cape, surface base 7100, mid-level 6100. That's pretty impressive for mid-level Cape. That's very impressive. Downdraft Cape 1700, lap rates is definitely there. So this is a favorable environment here for damage winds and even large hail as well. We're going to see what happens when these storms first form, because there might be a chance that a hatched area might come for the hail threat. Given the threat these with the mid-level lap rates and the instability values, there could be some strong updrafts out there. Plus, there's not that much in the way of stronger winds in the upper levels, so yeah, large hail seems possible with these storms. We'll go to another area. Let's go into central Indiana. We're going to try to get these areas spread apart here with these soundings. Let's see what's got here. Pretty good sounding here as well for severe weather. Pretty impressive with the Cape there again. Downdraft Cape 1400. Lap rate's not that bad. I mean, low levels was pretty good, but in the mid levels, it's still not that bad either. Again, not much wind shear. The tornado threat is going to be extremely low, maybe not even be there. So just keep in mind that what you guys just need to watch for is the damaging winds and hail. But again, it's really have to depend on where these clusters of storms form. It really has to depend on that. Looks like we're not going to do any more areas on here from the NAM, but it does show a pretty impressive environment here. We could go and continue to day 3. Here's a cold front moving in, though. Cold front will be moving in across the Midwest. Looks like it may become stationary, and we're going to see what's going to happen beyond that. We're not going to get into much detail about that right now. Here's the rapid refresh, and this is typically overdone with the cape and stuff. I meant reflectivity. My bad. It actually shows a mesocconvective system across parts of southwestern Kentucky. Maybe MCV within that. We'll see. But it does show a decent alpha boundary, though, from the MCV. So that's very interesting from the rapid refresh. And you can see it continues to move to the east there. And actually another one develops on top of that. Interesting. But I'm not really buying too much of this right now. But if you go a little further up north, you do see some showers of thunderstorms developing across parts of Iowa, Wisconsin, eventually into parts of Illinois, and maybe into parts of Michigan. But then again, something a little bit different than what the other models are showing. And these models have not been that consistent, which makes things even worse. So this is going to make forecasting pretty difficult. So then again, we're not completely sure where these cluster thunderstorms are going to form. I think it's just got to depend on where these alpha boundaries are going to be, because those alpha boundaries can create lift, and that's where your storms can form. And this is not as impressed with the cape there, but either way, there's still a lot of instability out there. We'll just do one sounding this time. We'll just do one sounding this time. Still a pretty good environment here, so at least all models agree on the environment here across many of these areas in here. It just really depends on where these storms are going to form. So pretty much similar situation like the other ones are. Pretty good amount of cape. Downdraft cape good. Mid-level lap rates is also good as well. Everything else is alright. Excuse me. So if anybody lives across parts of the Midwest area in here, so really across parts of southern Wisconsin, eastern Iowa, and even across parts of northern Illinois, definitely gotta watch for that severe weather potential tomorrow. Could be a pretty decent cluster for you guys. At least that's what some of the models do predict. That's where we do have the better confidence right now. But everywhere else, we're not completely sure. But either way, even though if there's going to be cluster thunderstorms or not, there's still going to be a favorable environment for severe weather. So that's why the area is pretty broad here, and the models keep on showing different stories, which is really bringing on that uncertainty. And here's day 3 for an Spc Outlook here. This is the last thing we're going to take a look into. And you see it shows a pretty large March risk. And don't be surprised if there's going to be a slight risk upgrade on this next update, probably somewhere across parts of the Midwest, maybe to parts of Great Lakes again. Alright, so that's the severe weather side of things. We're done with that. Let's go over the tropics. So from the last update, we had 3 different areas to watch. We had Invest 92L that was back here. We had Invest 93L and we had 94L. Invest 92L that's gone. Don't have to worry about that. Invest 93L, which is right here, that's gone. But the one system we need to watch for now is Invest 94L, which is right here. And yes, the National Hurricane Center does give a pretty high probability of 80% chance. Now this is where things get very tricky. This really has to depend on where it's going to go. So if it's going to go through Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Cuba, where they actually have mountains. Now mountains with tropical systems don't mix very well. Keep in mind of that. Mountains can shred tropical systems apart, and sometimes they can kill them completely. Uh, so if it goes through there, it's going to be a weaker system. Now, if it misses everything to the north, it'll be a stronger system. But either way, there's still going to be obstacles to go through because there's actually going to be some dry air and wind shear to go on at the same time. So this system's got a hard time to develop. But really, from now to Puerto Rico, there's a decent chance of becoming a tropical depression between now and when it gets to Puerto Rico. Then after that, we're not sure what's going to really happen here with this system here. But really, areas like Cuba, Haiti, and Dominican Republic, even for the Bahamas as well, and even for people in Florida. So if anybody's going to go down to vacation down in Florida later this weekend, need to watch this system very closely here. Now, there is a chance it may die off completely. There's a chance that could happen, but there's also a chance it can make it through there. It might become something when it gets to Florida. We're going to see. Let's check out some of these models here. So this is Invest 94L. You see on infrared satellite imagery. You can see there's a good amount of convection around the system. As you can see here, pretty healthy system though right now with all that convection. Now, I do like to use the hurricane models because they've been the most accurate models. Track-wise, intensity-wise, they're pretty garbage on that. But anyways, most models at least agree on that it'll go for Dominican Republic and Haiti, which is some good news for people later down the road. However, they do miss just to the north of Cuba, so we're going to have to see if it can make it through Dominican Republic and Haiti first before it gets to Cuba and eventually Florida, and eventually it's got to make a northeast return because at the same time there's going to be a trough moving in, so it's not going to get that far west. So really, Texas, Louisiana, you guys won't get effects from this system. You guys won't. It's really areas in Florida needs to watch for this system here. Maybe as far west as to parts of Alabama. We're going to have to see. But right now, the hurricane model says a decent agreement here that will go through across parts of Dominican Republic and Haiti, and eventually be going probably on the west side of Florida, maybe in the eastern Gulf, where the waters are actually pretty warm right now. So, and they have not been worked up that much at all so far this hurricane season. We'll check out some other models. Here's the Gfs Ensembles. Pretty much shows a similar thing, maybe slightly to the northwest, but also shows a much weaker system though. I mean, pretty much none of the models show this going below, what is that, 210 millibars. I mean, that's a weak system there. Doesn't really show it making it that far for the Gfs Ensembles. The Gfs Ensembles parallel and shows something pretty similar, but does show some members here and there showing might become something later on, but that's a pretty widespread look later on, but that's not really been a good model. Here's the intensity guidance here from the hurricane models, and you can see here pretty much half of them in tropical depression, the other half in tropical storm. I think it has a chance of becoming a tropical storm, but really when it makes over land, I think it's going to go back down maybe into a tropical depression. That's what I'm thinking of right now. But if it does miss everything to the north, I think it's still going to maintain a tropical storm. And very low chances this will become a hurricane. Um, Maybe it might become a hurricane when it gets into the Gulf. We'll see. It just really depends on the environment there, like dry air and wind shear, which that's what we're about to look into. So here's the GFS model here. So here's Invest 94L, that's right here. And this is going to continue again, move something like this. It really in the brighter colors like yellow, orange and red, that's stronger wind shear. And stronger the wind shear, and wind shear can stretch storms apart, basically. Right now it's an environment here where there's basically almost no wind shear, which is favorable for tropical system development, so it does have a chance of developing into something. But as it gets closer to Dominican Republic and Haiti, GFS model actually shows this thing dissipating. Yeah, gone. So that's a very interesting run from the GFS model, basically showing it dying out when it gets over to Dominican Republic and Haiti. So that's very interesting. If we look into precipitable water numbers, and you can see here in the brown colors, that's dry air. And this is probably the reason why it kind of dies out so quickly. You're going to see it right here. You can see here, look at how dry air is starting to get into that circulation of the system here. If that's going to be the case here, if that dry air does get into that circulation, that's really going to cut off that moisture, and this thing can die off. Which that's what it shows pretty much happening there. But even with its remains from the system here, can still make it over to Florida. You can see here, its remains is right here. You can see here how it comes towards to Florida. So either way, the main threat for Florida here is just going to be heavy rainfall. So the remains will still stick around probably. You can see here how some of that moisture does get into Florida, and that could bring in some showers and thunderstorms over there as well. Alright, so I think the last thing we're going to take a look into is the ocean heat content where this thing would be going. So here's the ocean heat content. This is also favorable for subtropical system development. Higher the number, the better environment for tropical systems. So right now your system's right here, and plenty of green and yellow out ahead of the system here. So that's a green for the system here for Invest 94L. So you got plenty of ocean heat content out ahead of the system. And then we'll check out those sea surface temperatures, ocean analysis, Western Atlantic. And here you are. It is warm out there, and those sea surface temperatures. I mean, it is very warm. I mean, check out the Gulf, 31 degrees Celsius. I believe that's upper 80s in Fahrenheit. So that's very warm Gulf waters. Even across parts around the Bahamas and Cuba, it's also very warm as well, with 30 to 31 degrees Celsius. Your tropical system's right here. And it's going to be going to a pretty favorable environment here, at least before it gets to Puerto Rico. Really, from now on to Puerto Rico, it's going to be in a pretty favorable environment here for tropical system development. And really, after that, it's going to be running into some wind shear and dry air, and it'll probably have a hard time, and also some land interaction. So there's still some low confidence on the system here. So, really, this, how should I say this here? So really, the question is, will it die out when it gets to Dominican Republic or Haiti? We're not sure. But really, it just matters with the track here. If it goes right through Dominican Republic and Haiti, it's going to be a much weaker system. It may even die out. If it goes a little further north, it'll be a stronger system, but it will still have to work through some of that dry air and wind shear. But right now, I'm giving this high probabilities to at least to develop to a tropical depression, and maybe a 30 to 40% chance of developing into a tropical storm. And really, after that, I think it'll calm down to a tropical depression and may die out. We're going to see what's going to happen there later on. Let's check out the HER model here. Let's see. It's pretty much done. If you guys do have any questions, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. Looks like it doesn't really get that far out much into Wednesday. But yeah. So I think we're going to end the live stream here since there's not that many people watching. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this live stream. If you guys like this live stream, hit that like button. If you already like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys got questions about this, watching this as a video, you can put in the comment section down below. I answer you guys questions. And I'll see you guys in the next